Hello and welcome back to another video. So today on the bench we've got this rocker cover from a Mark III Vauxhall Cavalier. The engine type is the X20 XEV engine model. What I'm going to try and do to this today is, if I remove this bit of tape, is I'm going to try and repair this crack here. As you can see, it's been seeping oil out there, but you also get a smell of exhaust type smelling gases into the cabin of the car. So what we're going to try and do is actually I'm going to try a thing called plastic welding today, and all I'm really going to use for that is a soldering iron. I should have been more organised than this, and a cable tie. And what we're actually going to try and do is melt that and hopefully fuse the two together. I bought another rocker cover for my Mark III, which unfortunately also had a very small crack in it. At the time, it was nowhere near as bad as this. In fact, I'll show you. So as you can see here, I've got exactly the same issue right here. It's the same sort of size. This is letting fumes into the car. It can also cause drivability issues, and the reason being is you've got these ports just here. These are your breathers. This one in particular comes from the bottom of the engine to the top end of the engine, just to allow any combustion that can seep past the pistons. It just allows it to come into the top of this rocker cover, and then here it can actually suck it into the air intake. It's all part of trying to reduce emissions, really, because some of the fumes that come out of there is hydrocarbons, which essentially is unburnt fuel. It goes through the air intake and it gets reburnt with the rest of the with the fuel mixture. This presents a problem as well, because if there's air coming out of here under hard acceleration, you could have air being sucked into here and causing the engine to run lean. Excuse the trains in the background. And what this can do is upset your air fuel mixture, make your engine run lean, and therefore it can not give you the power output as it originally come with. It can also upset your emissions as well. Right, so I've got some brake cleaner here and here, because this one's nearly run out. Let's give that a bit of a douse down. Blue roll. And we're going to try and clean this off as best we can. What I'm actually planning on doing is I'm going to sand this back a little bit, because we don't really want the paint to get in there. And it does come off quite nicely actually, but we don't want the paint getting in there and ruining our repair. And there you can see it's just a plastic. Don't worry about this. We're gonna, if this works, that is, we're gonna repaint this and hopefully make it all look nice and sexy afterwards. Okay, so now that we've got that, you can see the crack quite clearly there. Get it centered on the camera. There we go. I'm going to try and heat up my soldering iron now, and we'll see if this plastic even melts with this. So that'll be interesting. Right, so these heat up to about 200 degrees usually. So all we're going to do, we're just going to try and melt the plastic down a little bit. So we've melted a bit of a ridge in there, and now I'm going to use this clear cable tie to just simply as a filler rod to fill these little grooves back in. And all I'm doing is laying the cable tie in there and just using the soldering iron to kind of melt that in, just basically trying to bring the level back up. That's what we've got so far. Now, because I'm lazy, I'm going to use my DA sander here. Now this has got a 400 grit sandpaper, that's what I was using at the beginning of the video, just to knock off that paint there. But what I'm actually going to try is, I've got some 180 grit here. I'm just going to give that a quick run over. So that's brought that up really quite smooth already. It's a little bit rough from the 180, but we do have this excess plastic that we've got here. And all I'm going to use is just a knife to try and cut some of that away. It's probably best to use a sharpened knife than me. So there you can see we've still got that slight edge there. We probably won't be able to get this perfect, but we can always use filler in this to make it look better on the car. This bit, obviously, we've got the Vauxhall spark plug cover that runs along there, but we should be able to make that look fairly good. We could probably use a bit more filler in there if we wanted. Right. Let's give this a little bit of a test. So, sophisticated bit of equipment there. So all we really interested in is seeing if we get any air come out of here. So I've got a bit of tissue there. Just tape that across there, flatten it down a bit, use compressed air, and then push that into that one there. Good news is I can't see anything coming out of there. Yeah, so as I said before, looks a bit rough, but we'll just use a bit of just ordinary filler to fill that. I will paint it, but I wanted to try this out first to see if we could see if it would even melt with the soldering iron. Before I buy any plastic primer, but what I will be doing is cleaning this whole thing up. We'll put a bit of filler in there, get that so it's nice and smooth, prime it, well, sand the whole thing down, give it a good clean, and then we'll spray it with some silver alloy paint that I've got. Although this looks like just a silver non-metallic paint, so I might have to buy some non-metallic paint, non-silver metallic in the can. So I've got some U-Pole top stock filler here. It's just a fine filler, this one. Yeah, it's been around a little while, as you can see there. It's gone a bit manky, but it should still be okay. Screwdriver. It's not too bad. Just give it a bit of a mix. It's important to let this let the resin mix the resin back in with the rest of the actual filler. It is that makes it go hard when it has a chemical reaction with this stuff, and even that's gone a bit crystallised. Maybe it's getting a bit old, this. I've had it for a little while. Little tip for you. If this stuff does start going a bit, well, less runny like that, if you add more fiberglass resin to this, that's all this stuff basically is. It's the filler is obviously some kind of material, but if you actually add the resin to it, you can actually get this to become a lot smoother. That should be good enough. And another little tip, carb cleaner is absolutely brilliant for getting this stuff off. Now for this we're not going to need too much, so I'm just using an ordinary bathroom tile here. Just give this a bit of a manipulation, just to mix any chemicals up inside that may have separated over time. I think, to be honest, this stuff's probably about had it. I just want a little dab of hardener there. Put that in there with that. Right. Try and mix that in. Until you see all the streaks of red have all nicely mixed in. And a good thing with this being a tile, just scrape it off the end and go again. Mixed up way too much there. You want to push as hard as you can into there, and then we'll simply scrape off the excess. Don't worry about having too much excess on there, it can be sanded off. Just try and, the less you put on, the less work you give yourself. Now if you do miss some bits out, doesn't matter, just go back again once it's hardened off and refill it. Better to be like that than put too much on in the first place, to be honest. Carb cleaner all the way. This is STP, not a sponsor. That's just the cheapest one I found on Amazon or eBay, one of the two. Wherever you could get it cheapest, get it from there. And the great thing about this is you use this on your spray paint gun and stuff like that. Absolutely ideal solvent to use because it just leaves no trace. It doesn't, it will react with the paint, but it doesn't, once it's all evaporated off, it's like it was never there. It would most likely need a second coat on there, but we'll just leave that, walk away from it and have a nice cup of tea, I think. So it's been a couple of weeks now. The paint has turned up, the wheel silver, and I've gone for just a paint factory colour it. This is just a grey primer. This, I was expecting it to be a bit bigger, to be honest, so you should really read the description and then find out that it is only 250mm versus 400. That doesn't matter though, this should be more than enough for what we need to do here with this. Anyway, so obviously the last time I was here for you, it'd be a few seconds, is I filled this. Now I could do with block sanding that back a little bit, straightening up this edge along here. There's a couple of bits that I need to sand off there. I don't know if I'm showing you that properly. So yeah, that's what it looks like. It's pretty rough along here still at the moment. I'm really trying to keep this edge as straight as I can. So I might have to use some kind of block and block that down a little bit, and try and keep that as sharp as possible, or at least try and follow the current contour of that. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to get set up and block that down a little bit, see what actually needs to be done. This does need refilling. There's a few craters here that I've clearly not filled in properly just here. So yeah, I'll get on with that. I'll block this down a little bit. Oh, this isn't the bit. Oh, maybe I should do it that way. Let's try it like that. So all I'm trying to do is keep this nice and flat to the surface. Probably should use a bit more of a better gritted sandpaper than this, but it's kind of what I try and start finishing this now, because none of that is really too high. There's a lot of low spots in here that I can feel. So what we're trying to do is just bring the high spots to the same level as the rest of this. And all I'm really looking for is leveling this edge off with the edge along here. But already that's not looking too bad. If I use that as a straight edge, you can see that that's not far off, or pretty straight already. See if we catch the light, can we? No, there we go, that might be a bit better. So you can see that there's some low spots still that we need to fill in, and that's low on this edge along here. So what I might do is actually hold that block there if I can, and try and fill towards this line here and actually push it down in there, just to try and give us less work to do along here. We'll see if that we'll see if that works. Just lightly load up my spatula there, make sure I'm in shot. I am. Right, I'm going to hold that up against it at roughly the right angle, and we're going to just try and backfill that if we can, and that is literally all we need, guys. So let that fill a little bit higher than the rest of it. Gives us more sanding to do, but that's no big deal. So that's that. So I'm going to let that go off for a little while. Might try and get some heat on it because it's about 8 degrees today. Yeah, and I'll come back to you when we're ready to sand this down. Right, tea is made. This is now dry. It's still quite warm from where I've had some heat onto it before. Let's give that a bit of a light rub down. Got a high spot there where I obviously done wrong. I'm not really putting any pressure on this, guys, just enough to actually for the paper to cut. We're going to try and just ease it round a bit now, and we'll do it slowly each time. Now always we're trying to pick up a nice rounded edge. It's not going to be perfect, but we'll try and make it as good as we possibly can, hopefully. So as long as this feels nice, it's always best to use your fingers as well for this sort of thing, and don't try not to look at it with your eyes. You can feel the difference. You can feel the difference of where everything is. Your eyes lie to you. I mean, that looks good. So what I've got here is some sanding guide coat paint. It feels quite thick at the minute because it is quite cold in here, as I said earlier. So you don't need a lot of this, guys. You just a very light spray, and that's already way too much. Okay, so that's had a a few minutes now. So again, using my 400 grit here. This shouldn't need an awful lot of doing. This stuff's pretty easy to sand. That's what it's designed for, just purely to give you a guide. I can run my hand along here and it feels no different. You can feel the low points just here in between these bolt holes. But we'll do the best we can for this. After all, we want it to look good on the car. Yeah, hopefully this will look pretty tidy after we're done. So you did just see me taping all of this up, and when I just realised that I forgot to actually rub this stuff down, give it a key, otherwise none of the paint is going to stick. So I've got some 320 grit scuff Scotch Brite stuff, and I'm just going to go over everything, give it a bit of a scuff just to make sure that paint does actually stick to the painted surfaces here. Okay, so that's now sanded down. I'm going to use this panel wipe here just to give it a bit of a rub down. Just give it a nice rub down. This just removes any oils or greases that may still be present, which is highly likely on this. But it also gets rid of any dirt like that. Sort of try and go over everything as best you can. Give that a few minutes just to flash off, and then we can start putting some primer down. Okay, so this is dry. It's only been like about 3 minutes. 2 minutes of that has been shaking my primer up. Now we can start spraying. A light coat to begin with. Okay, so this is where we're at. 3 coats of primer, probably way too much. However, it's good for imperfections, like where a fly landed in here, and the paint was still soft. And I also leant on this bit here with my gloved hand, and as you can see it's put a bit of a mark in the paint there. So hopefully I can use the finishing cloth, a 600 grit Scotch Brite, give this a rub down, and then we can go and spray our silver paint. So it's been a couple of weeks since I last looked at this, so it's, at least the paint's had a chance to harden off. Overall, it looks pretty good. Quite pleased with how it's turned out. That's where the fly landed. Got a bit of something going on here, and I don't know if you can see where my finger is if I get it in the sun. You can see where I leant on it with my gloved hands trying to get the fly out. Probably get away without doing anything to it, to be honest. As I say, it's just to tidy this up, make it look good. I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to get set up and give it a bit of a light sand here and see how they turn out. And then hopefully give it a going over with some Scotch Brite and spray some silver on it. I'll come back to you in a minute. Just a nice light coat to begin with. So it's well over 24 hours now, and I thought I'd just give you a quick of a show how it looks. Quite pleased with the way this has turned out. Sorry about the wind, guys, it's quite windy today. I'm also quite pleased with how this has actually turned out. Ignore that bit of rubbish there. See if we could get a decent angle at the paint. Actually laid quite well despite doing this in the cold. As you can see a bit there where it's not dead flat, but I'm actually really happy with this. And more importantly, you can barely see. You can probably see it clearer on the camera actually, but you can barely see the repair I've done. Where was it? Somewhere along here somewhere. So there you are. That's what that looks like.